Interested in learning about manifesting with the moon? That's coming up in just a minute, right after this. Hey everybody, I'm Mel from Mel's Divination. I'm the owner, the operator, and the creator here, and today it is Witchy Wednesday. So we are going to be doing a topic that was viewer requested. So we're going to do that in just a few minutes. First, I'm going to introduce myself. I'm Mel, like I said. I do have a website. It is melsdivination.com and an email, melsdivinationreadings@gmail.com. Everything is linked down below. So check that out if you're looking for any kind of coaching or intuitive sessions with me. On this channel, we do Witchy Wednesdays, we do Flip Through Fridays, and then we do astrology, tarot, energy readings on the weekends. Also, there's a newer series that I've started to do, which are live tarot card pulls by donation. And I did just want to mention it really quickly because it's a newer thing and some of my viewers may not be aware of this. What I do is I sign in, and I'm usually on for about an hour, and any kind of donation counts for a reading. The smaller the donation, the smaller the details you're going to get. So a $2 donation or a $5 donation, you'll get one card with details. $10, $20, you'll get 3, 5 cards with more details. So that is the way that I've been doing this. The donations can go to Super Chat, PayPal, Cash App, Venmo. I actually have a video up that I did yesterday. I saved it. So if you're interested in how that works, feel free to watch that even just a little bit so you can get some insight. I usually go live. That's the problem. I'm not quite sure yet. So make sure you subscribe to the channel and click the notification bell so that you get alerted when I go live. I try to post it in the community tab when I know I'm going to be going live in a couple of hours. Like I put a heads up there. I haven't figured out what day of the week I'm going to do this or if I'm going to do it multiple days of the week just yet. But it is something that I'm really enjoying and I'm wanting to do more with my community and maybe meeting new people as well. So with that said, we're going to move forward and talk about this video now. So today the topic is manifesting with the moon. This was actually a viewer request that came up while we were doing the live tarot pulls yesterday. So I was just kind of bouncing ideas off of people and asking, if there's stuff that you're interested in that I haven't talked about yet, what would you want? And one person said, manifesting with the moon. Now this is kind of a big topic, so I may do a couple of different videos about this to make sure that I cover it all. But I want to share my personal manifesting story with you guys first. I started manifesting with the moon way before I knew what that was. Way before. We're talking 2006, 2007, something like that. And I didn't really have any knowledge about what the full moon was, how it worked, what the new moon, how it worked, waxing, waning, any of that. Like the zodiac signs, what it means when the moon is in each zodiac sign and what kind of energy that brings up for us. I had no idea. Didn't know what natal charts were, didn't know anything. I knew almost nothing. But I did know that when the full moon came, so that I started doing it with the full moon. When the full moon came, I would feel very different. A few days before and during, I would feel emotional. I would feel, sometimes I couldn't sleep. Sometimes I'd feel nauseous. Sometimes I'd be exhausted, depending on the sign it was in. But I didn't know that that's what was going on. And I decided to start working with that energy because it was calling to me. And I started writing my intention setting stuff at that time. And I didn't have a particular way. I wasn't focused on this little ritual or anything. I literally would use my journal and just write the date, the moon, that the moon was full moon. And then I would write down the things that I was hoping to see happen. Didn't really have any rhyme or reason to it, just did it. And often what I was thinking about would come to fruition. Now the thing is with that, is as a Scorpio, with a Mercury in Scorpio, which is how we think, and a Venus in Scorpio, which is how we feel, I get obsessive. And I actually mentioned this last night. When there's something I really want, like this house, or the car that I bought, or a job, or a relationship, I obsess over this thing, and I visualize it, and I picture it, and I obsess how it's going to feel, what it's going to be like, what's it going to look like, how's it going, the whole thing, over and over and over and over and over, until it happens. And by putting that kind of energy out there, I'm not recommending you should do that, but this is how it's been with me since I was literally in high school. I put that energy out there that it's going to happen. It's not a question. It, like, when I wanted the car that I wanted, I was getting that car. Period, exclamation point, getting that car. And I got that car. And I didn't even have the money to get that car or to make the payments. And I found a way. I got another job. I made it work. Never missed a car payment. And so this is something that anybody can do. Like I said, you don't have to have a ritual. Really, the best place to start with this is start working on either the full moon or the new moon, or both, and start paying attention to how those energies make you feel. That's the best way to begin for really basic beginners. Then the more I learned about the moon as I got older and I got more advanced and experienced, I found out that the new moon is best for planting seeds, setting intentions of what you're wanting to see over the next moon cycle. And the full moon is actually often known better for releasing. But I always have connected so strongly to the full moon energy that I will release and set intention. I personally do both during the full moon because I've always felt that strong pull of the full moon even before I was really practicing anything. So I didn't, and that's always worked for me. So I didn't really change it, even though the books say you shouldn't do that on the full moon. You need to do what works for you. You need to do what you're called to do. So that's why I wanted to share that story with you, because it doesn't have to be a huge ritual. It can be something as simple as you take a shower or you take a bath by candlelight just to feel good, and you write some journaling down and you just kind of picture what you're hoping for to come up. It's basically putting out wishes for the most part. Now, I do every single new and full moon, usually, go live on this channel, and I share a lot of extra detail of how you can work with those moons. So for instance, if you're not familiar, if it's a new moon in Taurus, I will sit there and talk about the general energy of a new moon in Taurus and how that feels and what to focus on for the collective. And then I'll go over house by house by house, where it shows up in your personal chart and what you should be focusing on during that specific energy at that time. Because a new moon in Taurus is going to feel a lot different than a new moon in Gemini. It's going to feel a lot different than a new moon in Scorpio. And it's really good to know those kinds of energies. Again, that may be overwhelming for new people, and that's okay. So take it steps back. I know when I first started, I would have been like, what? Like, I don't get it. And that's absolutely fine. I have been on this journey for more than 2 decades, probably 3 decades, 2.5 decades, we'll say. So this is all information that I have been working on all this time and compiling with my personal experiences and things that I have learned and grown with and changed. Once you do one thing, you're not locked into it. So for instance, I used to set intentions in a journal, like I said. Then I changed it. I would write out a long piece of paper. Dear universe, today is full moon, blah, blah. Usually I would say what the full moon was in, even though I didn't really understand what it meant. I'd put the date, and I'd be like, thank you for bringing me blah, 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 writing it in present as if it already had been arrived to me. And then I would sign it with my name. Thankfully yours, Mel, my full name. And then I would fold it up and I would tuck it away in a little box. Then when I bought this house, I had enough space to get an altar, and my altar is a disaster right now, but I'm still going to show it to you guys. Hold on, I'm sorry, the microphone might shake. Let's see. So my altar is right there, and it is a mess. Like, it's a working altar. I do a lot of stuff with it. It also has a few little spaces for deities. Sorry, guys. So then when I got my altar, and there's a shelf beneath it, I didn't show you the whole thing, but there's a cloth that covers it, and then underneath there's baskets. And when I got my altar, I started doing that. Instead of putting it in like a box and just tucking it away somewhere, I started to honor the altar, and I would write the information down and tuck it in the boxes, the baskets that I have in the altar. And what's so cool is I can go back to like 2018 when I first got this house, or when I first got the altar, and I can look it up. And what I do is I hold on to those until I'm ready to release it. Like until I feel like I've achieved everything, or maybe I'll write it down in my journal, like I'll photocopy it and tape it to my journal or something, just to see like how far I've come. Like back then, this is what I wanted and I got it, but it took this long to get it. So that is really cool. Documentation is fun in the sense of you can track your success. You can track your growth. When you're in the mud every day, you're not seeing that you're making small steps. You're not seeing that you've walked a yard or a foot or you've been climbing far. You don't see that. It's not until you get to like the top of the mountain or the other side of whatever, the hill or whatever cliche you want to use, that you realize, wow, look how far I came. Often we don't see those little victories. So that's one of the reasons why I like to save my intentions. Another thing I started doing, and this was before I moved here, so just another option for you guys. And this was a lot of work. I mean, a lot of work, which is why I stopped doing it. But every new moon, when I finally learned, okay, new moon is intention and full moon is releasing. Every new moon, I had a notebook. I had a three subject notebook. One subject I used as a notebook vision board. I didn't have an actual board, but I would use the pages and glue stuff on the pages of what I wanted. One section was for my intentions, and one section I think was for ideas and plans that I had. So the intention one, I would sit every new moon, and this would take me hours, which is why I stopped doing it, because it's just not practical if you don't have a ton of time. I would sit down, I would write, new moon in Taurus. We'll stick with the Taurus theme just because. New moon in Taurus, the date, we'll pretend it's 11/11, whatever it was. And I would start writing to universe. Thank you, universe, for giving me ... And I would make gigantic lists because I had read somewhere, and I agree with the theory, but the problem is it starts to become very time consuming when you're doing this. So I had read somewhere, and I honestly don't remember where I read this. I may have been told this. I may have read it online in a book. I honestly don't remember, and I'm sorry, I can't give the credit to whoever it was. Somebody told this to me or shared this with me somehow. So it wasn't my idea, okay? I was informed that on new moons, if you list every single thing you're hoping to accomplish from new moon to the next new moon, everything, then including big picture, including little picture, then when you check off something, so let's say going to dinner with your mother. I went to dinner with my mom this month. Check that off. Then when it talks about, the theory is by accomplishing little goals, so things like going to the movies with a friend or going to dinner with a mother or seeing a family member you haven't seen in a while, something kind of small and mundane, not like big picture stuff, but something that is achievable, really achievable within a month, reasonably, depending on what it is, people that you see regularly, but just not enough. Maybe like going for a walk, or in the summer, maybe going swimming. Anyway, these little bullet point things. The theory was, and probably still is, and I understand where it comes from. The theory, sorry, I'm getting a text message. The theory was, okay, so you checked off this. You went to dinner, you went swimming, you went to the movies. It starts a momentum, like a snowball effect, where if you get a little thing checked off on your list, it's going to help add momentum to your bigger things. That is the concept about it. And I don't know if I'm even explaining it well. So if you guys are confused, definitely write me down in the description, in the comments, and I will clarify that. Because it wasn't my idea, and I'm trying to explain it well. So, okay, you checked off these little things, right? You still have big things, like big ideas, like I want to buy a house, or I want to get this job, or I want to make 6 figures this year or next year. Big things that are obviously going to take time to accomplish. It's not something that's going to happen within that 28-day cycle. And what the concept is, so you do all that in your new moon, right? When the following new moon comes along, all right, the next new moon comes along, then you look at your list from the previous month, and as you're going throughout the month, you go back and you check it off. Okay, I went swimming. Okay, like you do it throughout the month, not when you're starting the next new moon. So the new moon in Taurus, the next new moon I believe is in Gemini, I think. Doesn't matter. Whatever. Next new moon after Taurus, you're getting ready to do your intention setting again. You sit down with that notebook. What you do is, and this is the part that became extremely tedious, you go back to the month before. You look at all the things you've accomplished, all the things you haven't accomplished, and you now copy that by hand. It's by hand. You do this by hand. Intention setting, it's really important typically to use handwriting with that instead of typing, because you're putting that energy in. And of course, some people have problems with writing. Either their handwriting is too bad, but spirit understands if it's your handwriting. But some people even can't use their hands because some people don't even have hands. Some people's hands are disabled, that kind of thing. So you can type or voice text it, voice type it. That's okay, but it's not going to take your power away, because that's the way you communicate. But if you can write it by hand, that's the best one. And I've also heard writing it by hand with permanent marker. If you want something to really stick, permanent marker. Pen is good, permanent marker is better. Not pencil, because pencil can be erased. Okay, so the next new moon, it's new moon in Gemini, next one after Taurus. You go back, you look at the previous month, you look at Taurus's new moon, you look at all the big stuff, you copy all the big stuff that you haven't accomplished yet, right? That you still want to. And maybe something changed. Maybe you decided you don't want that job, or maybe you decided you don't want that specific car, you want a different car or something, right? So you can change those. You don't have to keep them verbatim. And then you add the little things again. You add something like going to dinner with mom, or change it to going to dinner with dad, going to see grandma, going for a walk with a friend. Those things, you put in those little things again, the little mundane things. And every single month you do this. The mundane, the little bitty things, the big things. And often what happens is, as time progresses, you get more and more and more big things. So now your list is 3 freaking notebook pages long every single new moon. And that's where I ended up stopping, because it was taking me 3 hours to sit and check off all the little things that had happened, and then recopy all the big things and add more big things. Every month I added more big things, sometimes 3 or 4 big things. So it just became too much for me. If you have time and that resonates with you, absolutely do it. There's nothing wrong with it. It just ended up being too hard. I just couldn't do it anymore. I couldn't keep up with it. So then I got, the next transition that happened for me was I got the Magic of I planner. And you guys are familiar with that because I have shared that on the site. I'm not an affiliate with it. I don't make any money if you buy a Magic of I, nothing, not a dime. However, it is a huge resource that if you want just intention setting, goal keeping, being on track monthly, even that is great. And then there's also a lot of astrological stuff that you can weave into it. Anyhow, I had been doing writing my intentions and stick it in my altar for 3 years that I had been living here until I got that Magic of I thing. And now I do the Magic of I every month. I also combined it with the Moonology Diary, but I think I'm gonna skip that one this next coming year because it wasn't enough. Like it was kind of like silly. Like, what is your top 3 intentions? Well, I write that in the Magic of I planner. So it's not really necessary. Now, the one last thing, so we're talking mostly about the new moon, right? And I will do another video about the waning, the waxing, and a little bit more detail about full moon, because we focused mostly on new moon here, and I do want to start wrapping it up because I don't want this video to be talk the whole time. The one thing I did want to mention about my manifesting with the Magic of I planner is what happened when I started doing that. I really made it a special time for myself, and my life is different now. My life is based around witchcraft and magic and tarot and the energies, so I can book that time. Oh, the new moon's coming from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. I'm gonna sit and meditate and set my intentions and take a bath and maybe do some magical work. I can do that for myself. I don't have children. This is my job, and I'm able to put aside that time. A lot of you are not going to be able to do that, and that's okay. You're not less of a witch by doing a little bit. You're not less of a person or less of a spiritual person. You invest what you can in yourself when you can. And if you don't get it done on the new moon exactly, it's okay. You have like a window of like 3 days afterwards that energy is still pretty strong, that you can do that. So you can even do it the next morning. You can do it the next night. Sometimes I don't do it until 2 days later, because the actual moon, when the moon is in its exact sign, I get tired and I'm drained and I just don't have the energy to do it. So sometimes I'll put it off and I'll do it the next day. But what's important is to still do it, because when you slack, you see a difference. So for example, in 2021, and this is the last thing I'm going to share with you guys, and then I'm going to wrap this up for today. In 2021, that was when I started the Magic of I Planner, using that for my intentions. And at the beginning of 2021, I had gotten into a pretty bad car accident. And I had to go for physical therapy. I had to go for MRIs. I had to go for x-rays. I had to go to an orthopedic surgeon. It was a process. It was many months of rehab and trying to get better and limiting what I could do back then. And if you go and watch any of my videos back then, you'll see that I look different. Like I'm heavier and I'm not like dressed well, and it's because it messed with my shoulder and I couldn't lift anything and I couldn't exercise and I had to be super, super careful. So anyway, I did not want to have surgery. I was petrified. Not that there's anything wrong with surgery, but I was so scared of having surgery because surgery would put me out and now I can't work. And I didn't have money. It was the middle of the pandemic still. I didn't have money saved up for a medical emergency in case to take time out of work. I didn't have anybody to take care of me. Like when you have surgery on a shoulder, that means there's a lot of stuff you can't do. And it was my dominant shoulder. So that means you're going to have trouble washing your hair, getting dressed, eating, doing things around the house. Like, yeah, it was the idea of having surgery, because I don't live with anybody. And I wasn't seeing anybody that would have taken care of me at that time. So I was so like, oh my God, I don't want surgery. Please don't give me surgery. Like, let me heal enough. Let me heal enough. It was kind of like a wait and see. Let's see how your physical therapy works out. So every single month I set that intention. I will heal without surgery. I am healed without surgery. And because I was injured from the car accident, I got compensated. But if you've ever been in a car accident that costs money, that is a medical, that you get injured, that takes time. It's a long process and you're not really involved in much of it. The lawyers do it all, but you're waiting. You're waiting to hear. It also has to do with like, after you're healed and you're cleared by the doctors, then they can really work through the court system of figuring it out. So anyway, every month from January on, I set that intention. No surgery, healed to full capacity, no surgery, number one. Number two, there was a certain amount of money that I wanted to get from the settlement because I had a lot of credit card debt from the pandemic and I wanted to pay it off. And so I wrote down this figure. We'll say figure, I'm just gonna say X because I don't want to share that, that's private. So figure X, because even when I was in the car accident, I couldn't work for a while. So that messed me up as well financially. But anyway, so figure X, number X, is what I asked for. And I wrote that number every single month. Every single month it was this amount, this set amount, right? And then after about, I want to say it was like May or June, I sat down and added all, because I just threw a number out there. Like I really didn't think I'd receive that number. It was just, this would be great if I could have this number. And so I sat down and I looked and I totaled everything up, all of my debt, and was like, oh shit, this isn't going to be enough money. Like, because the lawyer will take a huge chunk of this, and a big piece of this goes to my medical bills that haven't been fully paid yet. So this number is going to be going to everything and not just me. So what I did was I added an additional, we'll say an additional 2 to it just to make it easier. I added an additional 2. So now it's 2x. And every month now, I'm writing that down. 2x. I will receive 2x. I will be cleared without surgery every single month in my intention setting. November, I got cleared without surgery by June. I was good. And my shoulder is pretty good now. Like there's still a few things, like I have to be careful if I angle a certain way or if I'm laying on it funny. But for the most part, it's good to go. Like everything's good. And the income that I ended up getting, it's crazy because the lawyer called me in November. It was like, oh, happy birthday. So it was a year ago today, or this month. She called me to say, we finally heard back. And actually she called me in October and said, they made an offer and I refused it because it was a ridiculous offer. And I said, what was it? And she goes, literally the exact number, it was X. The original number I was trying to manifest before I changed it. And I was like, oh my God, did I tell you that I was trying to get that originally? And she was like, no. She goes, no, that's crazy. She goes, but no, I refused it. It's not enough. You're going to have that injury for the rest of your life, and that's not enough. So we'll see what happens when they come back. So they come back a month later. I'm telling you guys, this is crazy. This is the power of intention setting. I wasn't doing any magic around it. I wasn't doing any candle work or spell work or working with any kind of materials. I literally was just setting intention and meditating on it from time to time, not even every day. She calls me back a month later and she says to me, you got 2x plus 1. And I just was like, what? Are you serious? And she goes, yes, this is the amount. And it was literally the 2x that I had been writing down over and over and over when I upped it. So that meant that the lump sum was that amount. And then my lawyer gets paid, and then the medical bills get paid, and then I get the rest. And what ended up happening was I just had a little bit less, very little, not a ton, but a little bit less than that original amount of number X that I ended up getting. So I was blown away because I've never done it with figures, with actual numbers. I've never done it like that. I've always done it with things like I want a car, or I really am interested in this person, or I want a house and I want my house to look like this and it needs to be in this area or this kind of job. I've never actually written numbers out over and over and over and over again trying to create that, and it actually happened. And I don't know why I was so surprised, because money is an energy, and it's actually easier to manifest money than it is to manifest a relationship, because a relationship has other people involved, free will, karmic lessons, and all that other stuff that has to do with other people, where money isn't like, it's an energy, but it doesn't have free will. It doesn't have karmic lessons to learn. It is just what it is. So I don't know why I was so shocked, but I really was. And I'm telling you guys, you can do something like this too. I didn't do as much this year with intention setting just because, as I've mentioned in a few of my videos, my mental health just was not great this year, and I had to work really hard at keeping myself together. And sometimes that took a lot of energy, and I would be tired, and I just wasn't able, I wasn't focused on it. Starting the new year, I'm starting all over again, and I'm doing big intention setting again. So it's something that has always worked for me. Some people, it doesn't work for them, but it is something I do recommend you trying because it's a really simple, small way to get into, that's spell work, that's energy intent, that's witchcraft to some degree. So it's a really simple way to work on energy work with that. I'm going to wrap it up for today. So this was more about like a small introduction of manifesting with the moon and new moon energy, more or less, and sharing some of my personal stories. I am going to do, since of what I covered, there's still a lot more to cover for this topic. So it looks like I'm going to be doing a series around this, and I will do waning moon, waxing moon, full moon, and I will talk also about the best way to work with those energies and kind of also some of the zodiac signs, but it's going to be hard to get super specific about some of that. So we'll see how far I get with this, but I definitely will do a few more in this series. Okay. I hope you guys liked this. If you have any questions that I can answer about what I covered today specifically, feel free to write down in the comments. I read everything. I respond to everything. Sometimes it takes me a few days, but I do respond to everything. If you're ever interested in any kind of coaching sessions about manifesting or intention setting and being walked through stuff, I can absolutely offer that. So feel free to reach out through an email. That's all linked down below as well. And that's it for today. So I wish you guys luck in all of this. And if you liked this video, hit the like button for me so that I do know you liked it. And also it helps me out, and it's free for you. It helps me out with the YouTube algorithm and bringing in more people to our little community that really resonate with this. Thank you so much again, you guys. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.